Today, our focus is Togo in West Africa, where after more than 50 years of being ruled by the same family of Sabi Iyatan, majority of the population are saying it's enough. My guest tonight is Mr. Sabi Iyatan, a leader from Togo, and we'll be trying to understand what the church in Togo is doing. This is Chim's Talk Africa.
From Cape Town to Cairo and from Mogadishu to Dakar, this is Chim's Talk Africa. And now here's your host, Chim Onyibilanma.
Welcome there, viewers, to this week's edition of Chim's Talk Africa. I'm your host, Chim Onyibilanma. Such a joy to have you join us. This week, like I said in the opening, we're going to Togo, and we'll be talking to one of the leaders from Togo. And Togo is very close to my heart. I lived there for 8 years. About 10 years ago, I lived there for 8 years. And encore salut à mes amis togolais. I'm just greeting the Togolese who are watching me. And you see, I look forward to what we'll be discussing tonight. But before we go into that, my comment this week is on Chad. A few weeks ago, just about 2 months ago, there was a swearing-in on new ministers in Chad. And something happened during the swearing-in, which I want to call your attention to. Mrs. Madeleine Alinga, who you will see in this news clip now, was being sworn in as the new minister for Chad in the area of postal services, new technology, and information and communication. Quite a long name there. And when it was her turn to be sworn in, they wanted her to swear in the name of Allah, and she refused. Look, take a look.
Andebung Labe Madeleine Alingue. Je jure au nom de Dieu Tout-Puissant d'être loyal dans mon travail,
S'il vous
de
plaît,
ne pas trahir.
reprenez la formule de serment. Je jure au nom d'Allah le Tout-Puissant.
Je jure au nom de Dieu Tout-Puissant
S'il vous plaît, c'est la formule consacrée et qui a été retenue par les 3 confessions religieuses. Soit vous prêtez serment tel que dit, ou soit vous disposez, Madame la Ministre.
Merci.
Nous passons au suivant.
Now, did you see what happened? She was asked to swear in the name of Allah, and she said, no, I'll swear in the name of God. And she was told, well, if that's what you're going to do, well, you've got to leave this post, you won't be sworn in. And she left. Afterwards, she was called back, and they allowed her to swear in the way she wants. I don't know her level of her relationship with the Lord and all that. I know she's a professing Christian. But what stands out for me is her ability in the face of being politically correct to stand for her conviction, to say, no, I will not swear in this name, I will swear in this name. It might look like a small thing, but I feel this is the kind of backbone we need in Africa. We need more and more Christians who are in the political space, who are able to stand for what they believe. And we'll get you as much news as we can get on Madam Alinga, but that for me is a good example which we need in Africa, where we're not just the yes sir to whatever leaders say, to just please our superiors and hold on to a post. We should be able to let go of a post and even let it be lost. Let us lose that position, like our next guest will say, if only we can stand for what we believe. The next place I want to comment on, of course, is Nigeria. The level of disregard for human life that is going on right now makes me want to weep. I'm talking about the continuous killing by the Fulani herdsmen. It's all over the news that it's almost becoming like a normal thing, but this is not normal.
In Nigeria, the livestock supplied by herdsmen provide a bulk of the beef consumption in the country. But some farmlands in some states have had a fair share of the wanton destruction of food crops by grazing cattle. This has resulted in violent clashes between farmers and the herdsmen, which ends up with a number of deaths day after day.
Just a few weeks ago, I worked with a group called CAPRO. It's a mission agency. The whole community where our training base was had to be moved out to another part of Plateau State. And it was because for a period of several hours, 11 villages were attacked and close to 200 lives were lost that same night. This is not correct. This is not proper. I know there are different narratives people are giving. The government in Nigeria is claiming that these are terrorist acts and not just mere herdsmen, that the narration that it's a case of communities fighting with herdsmen who want to graze their cattle and because of that are annoyed that they are not allowed to take care of their cattle and so they are fighting people, or herdsmen who are killing people because they killed their cattle or stole their cattle. The government is saying no, it is terrorists coming in from other countries, especially with the collapse of Gaddafi in Libya. But if that is the case, why then is the government in Nigeria planning to create ranches in different states in the country to cater for the herdsmen? That won't solve the problem. If the problem is terrorism, and I do agree to a great level that the acts being perpetrated here are more than just ordinary herdsmen. There seems to be mercenaries involved in this because the heartlessness, the rampant and the frequency of it is just too much. And it should be handled like a really national crisis, the kind of way that a person will handle war, because this is more than even Boko Haram, and the frequency and the rate at which it's going is going to cause a lot of trouble, more than what we see now, especially in the middle belt of Nigeria. And the second thing I want to say is to the church in southern Nigeria. I know there's several leaders who are trying to take initiatives and trying to do something for our brethren who are being slaughtered, who are being killed. Most of those who are affected by these continual killings by Fulani herdsmen are Christians in the northern part of Nigeria. I might be wrong, but I feel there's a disconnect with the church in southern Nigeria and that in northern Nigeria. I think we should see this as really like a war, and people, our brethren, are involved in a situation where we need to declare a state of emergency in our reaction as a church. We can't do church as usual. There needs to be millions of dollars raised by the Church of Nigeria in the south to take care of those who are affected by what is going on in the northern part of Nigeria and the middle belt part. Let's put the politics aside. Let compassion rise up in our hearts. Let engagement rise up so that the church in Nigeria will begin to play her role to remember those who are suffering, like Hebrews 13 says. I'm sorry if I'm becoming so passionate about this, but I feel there's a lot happening here, and this is an opportunity for the church in Nigeria to make a difference. Let's keep praying for what is happening, but let's act. So this week we're talking Togo, and my guest this week is Mr. Sabi Iyatan. Don't go away. We'll be back now with an insightful interview with him, just trying to grasp what is going on in Togo. And as always, we would like to hear from you. Let's get your comments on some of the things I've said or other things that are on your heart. See you soon. We're talking Togo today, like I said at the beginning of this program, and we have the privilege of having with us a man who served as a director with the Ministry of Agriculture under the former president of Togo. Mr. Sabi, it's a pleasure to have you with us in this episode of the program. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Chim, for this invitation.
Mr. Sabi, I just want to ask you a question. What really is going on in Togo?
Okay, thank you for the opportunity you give me to share a bit on the situation going on in Togo. Since last August, there was some protests in the land going on, political protests due to the misunderstanding or misgovernance between the ruling party and the opposition parties. The situation came out from an political agreement that the political parties are signed in 2006. And within that political agreement, there was some points that had to be followed up. But unfortunately, there is a great gap between what should be done and what is really done. So there is a weary out of the political party of the oppositions who now make protest. They protest for the lateness the process has taken. So since August 2017, there is a continuous protest in the land with political works, even.
You know, when you say continuous, and you know, that's really what I want to find out. Togo has always been known as that peaceful place where people bear everything. And this is not just political parties, but the individuals, the citizens, like we saw in the clips before now, who are going to the streets no matter what the government does in the face of the police and all that and the army. Why this time? Why this surge of protest? Why this persistent, dogged, we're not going to stop kind of thing?
You see, Chim, it's very, very important. There is a lesson for us together as African and also as believers in our family areas. Beware of people in the world who say they are peaceful. When you can say that they are peaceful and you abuse of that patience, of their patience, it won't be late. You will see them protest. That is somehow what is happening in my country, Togo. And it's a very misfortune that we arrive at that level.
And especially when you talk about not taking the populace for granted, that I lived in Togo for several years, and my impression was there's nothing that will face the Togolese out. They would bear anything. They would bend and bend and bend. We think of the decades on the former president Nyasigbe Yadema, before Mr. Four Nyasigbe took over. The kind of thing I've been watching in the news just underlines what you said, that you mustn't take people's resilience or people's patience for granted. This present movement, which started in August last year, Mr. Iyatan, it was started by a man named Tikpe Achadam.
Salifu Achadam. Yes.
Achadam.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Achadam is from Sokode. He's from the Tem, Kotokoli. Am I correct?
You are
the
correct,
Kotokolis are the major Muslim groups in Togo. Sure. Mr. Chakman is a Muslim, and most of the people in his party are Muslims. Now, from my discussion with Christian leaders and some others in Togo, they are concerned that is there maybe an Islamic agenda in this, because he was able to move the country in a way that Muslims are not been in the majority in Togo. What's your impression of the fact that this thing is led by a majorly Muslim party?
I see him as a citizen of Togo. I don't see him, first of all, as a Muslim. He is a Togolese. He is concerned with what is happening in Togo. And I believe that God can use even a Muslim to settle what he wants to settle. All of us are instruments in the hand of the Lord. And what is hopeful is that he is not leading a Muslim uprising. But all the other leaders, most of them are Christians. And they unite with him. They get understanding with him, and they are moving together. That is very important for me.
And I hear you on that, because God can use anybody. But this is my question, Mr. Iyatan. It's the fact that shouldn't the church be giving leadership in a case where there is oppression, what we are going to do is this. We're going to take a break, and I'll give you some time to think through this difficult question, because I think we're coming to the cross of the matter. I really would like to see what the body of Christ and church leaders are doing in Togo, why they're not the one leading the way. Dear viewers, we'll go for a short break, and when we come back, we'll let Mr. Iyatan handle this difficult question, if it is difficult. Thank you. Don't go away. We'll be back.
Do you have any opinions or comments on today's subject or any other issues in your country or around Africa? We would love for you to join the conversation. Please send us your comments by WhatsApp video, voice, or text message to the number on your screen, or via Facebook, Twitter, or email. We may be able to include your text, audio, or video comment on a future show.
Welcome back, dear viewers, to the second segment of our interview with Mr. Sabi Iyatan from Togo. Mr. Iyatan, just before we left for the break, I was asking you why the church is not the one leading the way in this fight against oppression, which is very real and which I feel is our call. What's your impression? Why are we having to follow a Muslim man? Good as you say, God can use him. What's your impression?
Thank you. This is a crucial concern within the Christendom in Togo. And some have this question. And from the understanding I get after discussing with some men of God, some leaders, I came to understand that there is a current belief that we are from heaven. We are on the earth passing. We need to have the hearts of stranger on earth, not to stick to what is happening on earth. That is unfortunate. That is not balanced.
It's not balanced at all.
It's not balanced.
That means, of course, if we're to go that way, William Wilberforce and his fight against slavery must have been out of the will of God. And we should continue slave trade till now and wait for somebody else to lead the way.
But they don't believe that they should not fight against it, but they believe that it should mostly done through prayer, intercessions, and evangelism. Those who are won to Christ will be out of this system, and they will
ready for heaven.
Okay.
While they're still on earth.
That is it. But it's not balanced, and it's unfortunate that most of us forgot that we are also life of the world and salt of the earth.
Exactly, and I love that the fact that you brought up that scripture, the fact that Jesus gave us those those symbols that we can't run away from.
Yeah.
Light doesn't stay detached from its environment. Salt doesn't stay without affecting the taste of things. So we can't just be in our salt shaker within all of us salt together. We are separate from what is going on. We've got to be salt where salt is needed. And I like the fact that you are saying this. So when you talk about leaders, I think some have the view that, and I'm not calling any names, but some of the key lieutenants of the present president are Christian leaders in government. They are ministers in the government. They are special counsel to the president. They serve very closely to Mr. Ford. Doesn't that, the fact that these people are known to be Christian leaders, and yet they, whatever way you want to put it, support a regime like this, doesn't this bring a kind of a break in the narrative we're giving out, especially as they are also the face of Christianity, like the way you were when you were in government?
Okay, that is a matter of conscience, a personal conscience. And that is a personal decision. We can't blame them. I knew from the experience I had that it's very difficult. If you are not, you don't have a heart for it you can't raise your head. And they need to be coached.
So we shouldn't judge them, but then we can't help but wonder what is going on. And I speak like this, some of them I know personally, but you were in government and you faced, and everybody knows the kind of pressure you faced. In a line or two, what was the situation then? What was the kind of pressure you were facing when you were in serving with the power that was before?
Okay, I have my professional responsibilities, and within I need to sometimes cope with political dimensions, with certain decisions that will not meet with my faith.
Okay. And what did you do?
I took my stand for my faith.
And what did that bring you?
It brought me difficulties. It brought me persecutions, misunderstanding, and threatened. I was threatened.
But you at a point you actually resigned.
I was led to resign.
You were forced to resign.
I was forced to resign. Not that I could say that was the best decision at that time. Now, with my position, I believe that I should not resign.
You shouldn't have resigned at that time.
But keep my position, and the least influence that I could share, how to display it. So
you were brought to a point where you decided to resign, but now you look back and say, maybe I should have just stayed. But what I find, and we need to learn this here now, is what I find is this. I think being there and compromising is worse than resigning and just being out. But you are saying stay there and bear the pressure as part of the price you should pay without compromising. Is that easy?
You know,
especially in the top level of government.
While you were there, I was sharing some of my difficulties with you. And you understood me, you were strengthening me, you were giving me advices. But we need also to be surrounded with such people like that.
We need to have people who come alongside us when we're in those places of government.
Of government.
Not just to get some money from us.
No. It's not a matter of money. It's a matter of helping our fellow brethren to understand their position in the society and how to play it with wisdom.
And that is true, because many times you have Christians who are ministers or political leaders or governors or local government, whatever, and Christians think of them as just a means to an end, and nobody's praying for them, we're judging them, nobody's going alongside them to help them really know what they are called to do, especially the pastors and the preachers. So you are saying that the church should support those people not by seeking to get things from them, but rather seek to strengthen them where they are so that they can play out their calling. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yes, exactly. And for this to come to pass, there is a need for awareness in the church, within the believers.
As to the role of those people.
As to the role toward those people. To believe, to understand that they have a responsibility to coach them, to advise them, and to help them in prayer. To go toward them and speak to them like a brother.
Yeah.
And knowing what they are passing through and comforting them. And reassuring them that it is possible. That God is faithful. God will see them through.
And I think we need that a lot in the present day Africa, because God is gradually raising more and more believers into these positions. They are the Daniels of our generation. And just to have an army of people coming alongside them to be able to give them the support and the understanding even of the calling they have, this peculiar calling, visible on the platform calling they have to affect society. We'll take one or two questions from the audience. Is there somebody who wants to ask a question as we wrap up this discussion?
I'm a bit curious to find out how this protests are affecting the younger people in Togo. And if it's affecting them negatively, since the protest has been going on for such a long time, how is the government mitigating the influence of this protest on the young people?
I will also add, how is the church intervening to the youth?
A proverb said in our country that when two elephants are fighting, it's the herb and small trees that are affected. There are, first of all, young people who died. The school system has been slowed down. It affects even the health system. Pregnant ladies went on protest before the hospitals. And to say that the youth have been affected. As I said, with those works, there is no more work. Those who are in business are affected. The small business they are doing, the ladies, the young men, to earn some money, all this are affected. The second part of that question, your question is that what is the government doing? We hope they are planning to practical solution, and the President of the Republic sees that occasion to go toward the people in the rural areas, settling, inaugurating projects, and announcing the financing of new projects. Okay, those are the way the government try to attack the situation. But is that the real solution? Okay, wait and see.
Okay, what about the church? What are we doing for the youth if there's so much suffering like this? Is that not an opportunity to be a salt?
The church, we don't see yet a concern of the church to read, to analyze those protests and their implications, and to draw practical, relevant acts in response of this situation. But meanwhile, we are praying.
Yeah, like we pray. And we trust that the Lord will challenge us as we look at this issue, not only in Togo, but across us, to see the fallouts of many political issues in our era. It's been Chim's Talk Africa, and we've been talking about Togo today, and Mr. Sabi Iyatan has helped us unpack what is happening, but also left us with a lot of thoughts and a lot of reflection on what we should be doing, not just in Togo, because many of us are not in Togo, but right where we are and the realities before us. God bless you and see you next week. Thanks, audience. Welcome back there, viewers, and I believe that God has an answer for Togo. Let's keep praying for Togo as well as other parts of Africa going through political tensions at this time. Before we go away, here is a word for you for this week. It's from Luke chapter 12, verse 15. It says, "Watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. A man's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." Now, this is important because you see, it's important that we would analyze our life and ask the question of, what is my greatest pursuit? What am I looking for? Am I looking as my number one pursuit, my biggest pursuit, to be more like Jesus, or am I looking to survive, to have enough? What am I looking for? Because you see, there is a lie we have today whereby some of our preachers are preaching that the measure of your spirituality is in how much you have in terms of your possession, your physical possession. That's heresy. The possession that we have, our treasure, is Jesus Christ. And if we get it right, that a man's life is not measured by how much material things he has, but rather how much of Christ he has, then our number one pursuit will be, how can I be like Jesus? How can I know him more? How can I press into intimacy with him? When this becomes our goal, every other thing will be added to us. And that's the word I leave with you this week. A man's life does not constitute in the abundance of the things that he has. I'm Chim Onyebilama, your host. Thank you for joining us this week. I look forward to seeing you the same time, same station, same slot. And you know what? More exciting things to come on this show. Please, let's hear your comments. Let's hear from you. Would like to feature some of the things you are saying on these issues in our upcoming shows. God bless you. See you next week.
This program is made possible by the generous financial support of believers just like you, who share our heart to equip the African church to engage the issues facing our continent. Your financial support will help us continue this important work. If you feel led to give to this ministry, please visit our website today.